Well, it seems that spring has officially sprung. As the sun stays up later and the snow begins to melt, signs of life begin popping up everywhere you look. If you're anything like me, you'll be making your way out to your favorite trail around the lake and starting to flip logs looking for salamanders. You know, they're not always there under the first log, or even the second, but you just gotta keep looking. Log after log, you'll push forward in search of these amphibians, when suddenly, you'll look up and realize you've wandered off the trail. Now you're lost. Nice going. You walk around a bit trying to catch your bearings when... What's that? Is that a house in the woods? And there's smoke coming out of the chimney. Maybe there's somebody in there who can help you. You walk up to the front door and realize it's open just a crack. So you take a look inside. You see an old woman working away in the kitchen, but she doesn't notice you at first. You've only taken a few steps inside when the floorboards begin to creak. This startles the woman, and in a panic, she screams. She says something you can't quite make out, and with a flash of light, your whole world has changed. That was a witch, and now you're a toad. More specifically, a western toad, and they sound a little more like this, actually. This is your life now. Might as well get used to it. You can't quite see yourself, but there are thousands of other toads in these woods, and they tell you you're a medium-sized toad, reaching lengths up to 14.5 centimeters. Your skin is dry and warty, and you've got very prominent parotoid glands behind your eyes. These are the glands that expel toxins when you feel threatened. They tell you you're green to greenish-brown in color, with a distinctive white stripe down the middle of your back. Life's not too complicated for a toad. That is, until the day you and your toad friends begin migrating from your breeding grounds in the water to your summer habitat in the woods. Your path is heavily trafficked by hikers, dog walkers, and cyclists as your life becomes a literal game of Frogger. Except in this game, you only have one life until it's game over. You make it to the other side, but as you look back, you notice that a lot of your brothers and sisters didn't make it. Today I had the pleasure of speaking with Ashley Sutherland, who, as far as I know, has never been a toad. She's a forester with the Aleza Lake Research Forest located in Prince George, British Columbia, and she has taken it upon herself to help protect the western toad from this very preventable danger. Today she is going to share with us how she was able to make the change she wants to see in the world. So let's get right into the conversation. My name is Michael Bryden, and you're listening to Wilder Insights. All right, Ashley, thank you for coming to talk to me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. It's honestly such a pleasure, and I feel so grateful for the opportunity. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. I think we'll just start off by getting you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so Ashley Sutherland. I am the Assistant Forest Manager for the Aleza Lake Research Forest. So we are located in Prince George, BC here. Our office is at University of Northern BC, where we're located. And my work there is full scope forest management and many aspects of business management with the society as well, because we're a not-for-profit society. But the scope of this project is super different from what I do as a profession. So I am a forester by training, but the project I'm working through is more specific to it's a conservation initiative related to the western toadlet migration that happens every summer from about late July through to late August. Right. So, yeah.
Before we get right into your project, I'll just let's zoom out a little bit. Okay. What got you into the environmental field of work to begin with?
Well, I guess seeing the injustice of that kind of overlap with the toad migration and recreational traffic, just seeing it on a casual weekend walk when I was at Shane Lake here in Prince George at Forest for the World Park. That was back in 2022. I was walking the main loop around Shane Lake with my dogs, and I witnessed the migration and that traffic conflict with my own eyes. I began this project out of concern as a private citizen kind of initially. So I was super saddened by what I saw with no real signage or education. People are seemingly just going about their regular business while there's toads carrying out sort of a necessary life history, moving from the edges of the lake up into their overwintering forest habitat. So I was walking the loop around Shane Lake. I got back to my truck at the parking lot. I emailed the city of Prince George right away, my concerns, and nothing really happened from there until pretty recently with it. Fall 2024 was when things changed a little bit.
Wow, it took 4 years before you heard a response at all?
Sorry, 2 years. So 2022.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah. Was when I sent the email, and then 2024 was when I happened to maybe make a little bit of progress on that.
Wow. So what would you say are the end goals of this project you've started?
Oh, the end goals are to, for sure, create awareness. That's a massive aspect of this and I think for me also, like, it was walking the trails at Shane Lake and seeing this myself that I realized that this is a problem. It wasn't something I really thought about it until I saw it myself. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there, most other people, who don't do migration or conservation projects as an aspect of their work. I'm sure a lot of other people just aren't aware.
Right, 100%.
Of this conflict.
Like, I'm sure a lot of people are hiking that trail, biking or with their dogs, and they're seeing the problem as well.
Yeah, or potentially not seeing it because they're so tiny that you might not see it until you've already stepped on some of them and created and, shown your impact. So I think so that's one fold for sure, is the end game here is creating awareness. The second aspect is trying to implement a long-term solution in the form of trail bridging structures of sorts.
Have you put out there trail closure suggestions during that time of year?
I have, actually. So I've spent some time living in another community that has a program that monitors and implements different protocol during western toad migration. And in my initial email to the city was to refer them to that community and what they're doing.
Right.
So I mentioned it in that email. As I mentioned before, I didn't really get anything back from the city of PG on that. Kind of a generic addressing it, but not much else. I have mentioned trail closures to a couple of other organizations, and it seems to me like at this stage anyway in the game, it's kind of a no-go. There isn't really a lot of appetite for that side of things. But I'm sure in the community that I was in before, it maybe was like that in the very early stages too.
Right.
Where you have to start somewhere, maybe create awareness, and then maybe propose temporary trail closures once you've got a bit more buy-in. Maybe off the top, that's not the best approach, but that's certainly something that I would really like to see.
Yeah, I feel like once there's momentum behind this project and more people are aware and seeing the issue, a lot of people are going to notice it out on their hikes. So perhaps with more voices behind that, that's something we can work towards.
Yeah, absolutely. An aspect of public engagement with this project is I've applied for funding for 4 signs that we'll put at the park. One that sits in each of the 2 parking lots that service the area, and one at each end of the lake as well. And there will be it has an educational piece to it. These are the amphibians that you'll be sharing the park with on your visit here today, that reside here. And then there is the next component to it is a bit of a call to action for the public to scan the QR code, which will direct them to the iNaturalist app and allow them to engage with the project in that way by recording an observation or taking a photo and uploading it. So there would be two options. One would be scan the QR code, which would take you straight to the Lake Amphibian Migration Project. Or the other option would be to just access the iNaturalist app on your cell phone and go straight to it.
Right. That's so cool that you made a project.
Yeah. So I'm hoping it opens on May 1st, 2025, and it closes on September 30th, 2025, just for the first round of hopefully public engagement and data collection.
Well, this will be coming out before that, so hopefully...
Awesome. I love the timing.
There.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you plan to do with the data you receive from iNaturalist?
So in addition to that data, I've also got some help coming this season where we will be doing some routine surveys around the lake and using that data combined with what the public brings, hopefully, to figure out where the core migration corridors that toads are using to move from the lake to the upland forested habitat. Where are they crossing the trail in the most abundance so that we can get a better understanding of where we might be able to implement trail bridging structures.
Right, so you're locating the hot spots of where they're crossing.
Yeah.
I've seen that be done in the past for even like main highways where people are seeing like where animals like deer per se are crossing more regularly, and
absolutely.
then eco passages being built right there.
Yeah, well, and it's happened also for migrating toads and toadlets in the Kootenays for sure. Just south of Nakusp, Summit Lake there, they have done some really great work to implement some projects that are specific to that and working with the Ministry of I think transportation to implement some really nice underpasses for them. The tough thing is that it needs to be a system, as I understand it, that is daylighted very well on both ends, and daylight infiltrates right through the structure so that the toads or whatever's using it could be any amphibians, don't view it as a barrier.
Right.
They need to be able to see through. So that's some advice I've received from experts in this field.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Something useful you can use in design later on.
Definitely. Yeah.
I know you said you dealt with a lot of issues with receiving emails from the city, like took 2 years, like you mentioned before. Aside from sort of a communication issue, are there any other struggles you've dealt with setting up a project like this?
Oh, I think those struggles are to come.
Right.
Honestly, it's only been since October 2024 that I've really started canvassing for support and obtaining that support, going to meetings, chatting with specialists in the field of amphibians generally.
Right.
So I think those struggles are to come. In terms of, I foresee those struggles being related to finding funding to obtain the materials and the labor to get the structures built once we've identified the best locations. And in addition to that, we've already kind of covered it a little bit, but changing public's perspective a little bit on care for amphibians is, I think, a struggle I foresee a little bit. I'm not too worried about that because I think once you educate people, they come around quite quickly.
Yeah.
But that's still a struggle. Educating people can be tough just to reach a lot of people. One struggle I think I've experienced so far in this project, though, is to this point I've been kind of a lone soldier in this. I've been, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've had a lot of help coming my way when I've asked for it for really specific things, but many heads are so much better than one.
Right, yeah.
And to this point, it's been really just me picking away at it in terms of like writing the application for funding to HCTF and attending the meetings and canvassing for support and figuring out what's next. So that's, I guess, the lead struggle to date And then all the other stuff that I mentioned is later.
Well, I feel like you've laid a really good foundation for yourself, even though you've just been alone in this. Like,
Well, it's come at the advice of people who have done stuff like this before, amphibian specialists, and just people more informed than me. Being a forester, it's so outside of the scope of anything I've ever done before in two aspects, in the conservation initiative aspect, but also in the aspect of amphibians, or really anything to do with wildlife. That's just not, I've never done anything like it before. So the advice of people who have been working with me has just been invaluable.
that's awesome.
To this project. And really I'm just the engine, sort of keeping it going forward and reiterating other people's ideas or implementing other people's ideas. They're the brains. I'm just kind of, I don't know, regurgitating, sort of.
Are there any way that you would suggest people could help out, whether that be locals or online?
Yeah, so this is something that I've struggled with a little bit. While on one hand, I would like people locally to be mindful of the migration and stay away from the park so that we can allow the migration to happen.
Right.
At least while we are collecting data and trying to educate, I think it's really important for people to go to the park and mindfully walk the loop around Shane Lake and the trails there and help us collect the data. So that's something that I think is so important to this project, is public engagement. That's really what's going to get it rolling.
100%.
And then non-locally, I think there's, like I said, there's communities out there that are doing this stuff. But I only know of like 3 other communities that are doing this stuff. And hopefully Prince George is going to be 4. And I'm sure there's more out there, but that also means that there's so many probably that aren't doing this stuff. But these animals are everywhere. So I think just opening your eyes to what's going on out there.
Right. Making yourselves aware.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Way better put.
Yeah, I feel like the easy, quick fix to all problems like this would be, if people weren't there. But that's not really realistic.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree wholeheartedly. But no, you're right. It's not.
So the next best thing is to work out these solutions.
Yes. Yeah. How do we still enjoy the trails at Shane Lake and all of the other really great recreational trails that are so accessible to where we live, while we allow these animals to still carry out their natural life history and everyone can sort of live together and, coexist?
Yeah, that's perfect.
The word I'm looking for.
So you mentioned signs earlier, but you mentioned how outreach and public education are like maybe the most important aspect of this project.
Yeah.
Do you have any other plans for different methods of public outreach?
At this stage, so the organization I work for, Aleza Lake Research Forest Society, has a Facebook page that has a decent reach. So planning on doing some postings there. I had received an offer from the Wildlife Society, UNBC, to maybe do some social media there. So really just social media, ways that we can get it out there, either free of charge or very, very low cost.
Right.
And start with those ways. Yeah, ultimately, it's beginning with a project in one location here in Prince George, and hopefully we can reach a wide enough audience that it expands a little bit more from there. But really the call to action is for the people that are visiting Shane Lake, and I'm hoping that the signage captures the attention of most people that are heading in there.
Yeah, I think it should. I think people who are out hiking, they like to see that anyways,
Absolutely.
right? They like to know what wildlife is around them.
Yeah, agreed.
How's it been forming these partnerships with people that you've reached out to?
Overwhelmingly positive.
That's really good to hear.
I didn't expect it to be any different because Prince George is a super supportive community, I find. I think most people would find that are carrying out any sort of work like this, that the knowledge base here and the willingness to get involved and help and is overwhelming. It's been so positive. And a lot of people I've been talking to don't have the capacity at the moment because they've got all sorts of other commitments, but they're still offering help in terms of like, if you're doing a petition, send it my way. I guarantee my signature. If they're recommending other people to maybe talk to in lieu of them who might be able to help instead. So positive.
That's great. Good job, Prince George.
Yeah, great job, Prince George. And I mean, I don't have a budget to do this. Like I haven't spent anything on it yet. Of course, there are wages that have been covered, but all of the advice that I've received has been donated to the organization I work for, and paid for, elsewhere.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
So for next steps, what are you doing after this? After we speak today, what are your next steps in this project?
Well, I'm waiting until, I believe, late June is when I will receive confirmation from HCTF as to whether I have received funding. Once I get that, hopefully an okay, I'll be ordering the signage that I've received quotes on for, so I could submit the application for how much funds I needed, purchasing equipment, getting a team ready to go. Because we'll be out doing the data collection this summer, whether or not we have funding, because that's taken care of otherwise.
Right.
It's not being taken care of through the funding. So getting signage, getting on the ground and doing the data collection. I have a really great contact with the Ministry of Environment who has been, he's an RP Bio, and he's been helping me through the methods for the data collection and just making sure they are really sound and they make sense and they're scientific and, all the things that in my line of work I haven't, I learned about all that stuff in my degree, but I haven't been practicing that since my degree.
Right, yeah.
So it's a good refresher on, scientific data collection. So I'm hopefully bringing him into the project in the aspect of performing the on-the-ground training with the crew that will be performing the surveying this summer.
And is that through volunteers? Is that a volunteer position, or?
It's not exactly. I have a bit of support through SERNbc to have a paid individual that is doing the data collection.
That's super cool.
As our lead, I'll hop in if I need to, if she's not able to do it on a particular day. And then I also have a really nice offer from the College of New Caledonia Research Forest to bring somebody in. So I'm thinking 3 of us will get trained up, and then we can switch out as we need to.
Man, it's so amazing to hear about all the support you've received from an issue you saw yourself and wanted to do something about it, right?
Well, and all of the other organizations that are in the mix too that I just haven't mentioned yet, but it's honestly been unreal. And everybody just pitching in a little bit here and there is just like, it amounts to so much, right?
Yeah. Many hands make light work, right?
Absolutely, they do. I love that saying. So that will be the course of action for this coming season, is finalizing the methods and getting the training done for the data collection. Outside of that, it's where are these migration corridors and planning for a more long-term permanent solution with trail bridging structures.
Right.
Yeah, which is potentially multi-year. I'm not entirely sure yet, the construction of them.
Right. But once they're in place, it's just maintenance, right? And that's a lot
Yes.
easier to take care of.
Yeah.
Perfect. If you could give advice to anybody wanting to make a project for themselves, what would you say?
One piece of advice I was given in the first meeting that I went to when I was planning for this project was adopt a realistic timeline. Because I was coming at it like, I've never done anything like this before. So I'm like, oh, how hard could it be? Like, collect a bit of data, throw up some boardwalks, done. I was thinking this was going to be like a 1.5 year long project. And he was like, you got to plan for it to be multi-year.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I would say is be patient. And I'm trying to, the more time goes on, the more planning I do with this and the more people I reach out to, the more I accept that. I wasn't very happy with that. I shouldn't say I wasn't happy with that advice off the top, but I didn't really realize how valuable that advice was immediately. It took a while. So that's one thing. Apply a realistic timeline.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and do a bit of research as to what that timeline might be, but prepare for years in the case of my project. Another one is reach out to people because there's so much knowledge out there and people want to help. And you just need to ask. And the worst they can say is, no, I don't have time or whatever. And I've received that from people. They don't have time. They're not able to at this time. But ask because you never know.
Worst they can say is no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you never know what they're going to bring to the table in terms of resources, potentially, or who they're going to talk to that could then maybe bring resources, how word spreads. And then the last piece of advice would be don't wait for somebody else to start. Be the starter here.
That's a great piece of advice.
And for me, honestly, it wasn't that easy. Like I said, I started talking about this or became aware of the issue in 2022. I didn't start until 2024. And that's because in a casual conversation on a Friday morning with my employer, I was ranting a little bit about this and how it was such an injustice and it was a concern of mine. And he suggested that maybe I could tackle this project as an aspect of my work with the Research Forest because it includes a lot of the stuff that the Research Forest mandate includes, like community outreach and education and our partnership with the university and some opportunities linked to that.
Right.
So I guess the message there is if you're ranting to somebody, they might be able to, I would say rant to everybody.
Yeah, put it
because
out there.
it took that one person to say, hey, there might be an opportunity here. And things just kind of went from there for me.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I think this project is so inspirational and it's the perfect example of make the change you want to see in the world, right?
Absolutely. And I never thought of it like that. Thank you.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. So.
Yeah. It is. And I'm very slowly realizing that. Yeah.
Well, Ashley, thank you for coming in and speaking with me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike.
Right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning into my conversation with Ashley Sutherland. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're living in the Prince George area between May 1st and September 30th, 2025, consider joining Ashley's iNaturalist project to help report western toad observations around Cheyne Lake. All data collected from this project helps determine hot spots along the trails where safe passage corridors can be built. I also encourage you to do some research to make sure you can properly identify the species. Links to both of these things can be found in the show notes. I want to thank the C4 radio station, located in Prince George, British Columbia, for allowing me to use their facilities to record. And an additional thank you to the band Funeral Culture for providing me with the song you're listening to right now. Check them out. If you're interested in becoming a guest on the show, know somebody you think should be a guest, or want to share a conservation story of your own, email me at wilderinsightspodcast@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram at wilderinsightspod. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.